Touhou Luna Nights is the game I happened to try on Game Pass a few years ago. I went ahead and bought it myself the same year since it was so good. It's a combination of action and Metroidvania, with time mechanics thrown in taking place in, well, the Touhou franchise. I'm not going to pretend I'm any expert about Touhou. My knowledge is tertiary at best and it comes from memes, shitposts and honestly, the music I sometimes listen to. But if you don't know anything about Touhou yourself, you're not really going to feel lost in the game. But a bit of background. Touhou is a bullet hell shmup series that's been around since 1997, but gained a lot of popularity in the early 2000s, of which some of you might remember. It was moved over from the PC 98 to Windows, where it got some rough translations. Luna Nights released in 2019, and is a fan spin-off game that's based around the 6 main entry, probably the most popular in the series. You play as Sakuya Itsuyori, a boss fight from that entry with the ability to throw an infinite number of knives and manipulate time. The game takes place in a fake version of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, created by Sakuya's mistress, Lady Remilia. Lady Remilia does this because she's bored. She handicaps Sakuya's time powers and tells her to come fight me, and that's about it. It's a really bare bones story which isn't a knock against the game, but there could have been a bit more. The game's visuals are a real treat. I know some people might roll the eyes when they think about pixel art, and considering how it's been used in the past sometimes, I don't blame them. Luna Nights is an exception. The art in this game is amazing. Environmental art is bursting with detail, with striking colours and character art, while looking a bit more simple, has buttery smooth animations. It actually reminds me of Ghost Trick, which I wonder if they used a similar technique when making it. The readability is also a plus. Some pixel art games use a lot of post-processing effects like bloom and blur. Luna Nights doesn't use anything like that. Instead it uses a lot of old techniques like they did in the past, like dithering for example. This lets the whole image appear clean and crisp, making readability easy. The game is considered to be a Metroidvania, which if you don't know is
a subgenre of action-adventure games and slash or platformers focused on guided non-linearity and utility-gated exploration and progression.
That description does capture Luna Nights gameplay sort of well. The game encourages and rewards backtracking to previous areas to look for secrets with your new abilities. I do think it's fairly light on the Metroidvania elements honestly, and you might be disappointed if you're expecting something more in depth like Castlevania. Luna Nights really shines on its moment-to-moment gameplay. Navigating Scarlet Devil Mansion itself is a challenge, with all sorts of traps, puzzles and platforming. The mansion is split up into 5 sections, each having its own level hazards, enemies and a boss at the end. You can also use shrines to teleport if you want to do secret hunting. I do wish there was more points to warp to, even if I could just use the save points as a one-way teleport. The game is fairly easy to pick up and play. You don't get dumped on too much to begin with, but you quickly get new mechanics rolled out. The only thing that might catch new players out is attacking costing MP, and early on you can run out fairly easily. So how do you recover it? Well, it does recover over time, slowly, but mainly that's where the graze system comes in. Grazing is just barely dodging an attack, allowing you to get MP back when in stop time, or getting both HP and MP back when in real time or slowed. This creates a risk versus reward situation, which encourages you to be ballsy, but you know, you can fly too close to the sun. Slowing time is self-explanatory. You hold attack until it's charged, and then you slow time for a few seconds. Stopping time has a bit more going on mechanically. While in stop time you don't expend MP when attacking. Instead you have a separate counter that gives you a limited number of free attacks. So if you are out of MP you still have a way to fight back. With all this mixed together you get this feeling of dancing in danger. Particularly during the boss fight, it's really good. Not only that, this is a rare instance of a game where there's never a reason to give up. Most games if you make a few mistakes you might as well throw in the towel and start over, but in Luna Nights even at 1 HP and no MP you always have an opportunity to bounce back and scrape yourself a victory. You also have sub-weapons which honestly I don't find all that useful. Chainsaws, yes you can throw chainsaws, it's probably the one you're going to use the most. Holy Sword is fairly useful, but you only get it towards the end of the game. And 1000 daggers which are completely broken. I actually don't recommend using these outside the extra chapter since they trivialise most of the game. Why are they so broken? Well, they do a ton of damage and while you're casting it, not only are you invulnerable, but you can still get graze. This can easily be exploited to nullify attacks and get a full refill of your HP and MP. I'm not really sure what they were thinking with these, and you can get them fairly early as well. Anyway, there's also a shop. This is actually a criticism I have for the game. The shop not only feels pointless but can actually be a beginner's trap. There's only really 2 useful items in the shop and you go for these after beating the game really. There are also replenishment items, but this is the trap in my opinion. You see, in order to buy items you need money, obviously. But in order to get money, you have to trade in gems, but gems actually buff your stats. So you don't collect things like armor, rings or pads, but you do collect gems to up your stats on top of leveling up. So you're trading in your stat buffs, making yourself weaker to get replacement items that you're only going to use when you're too weak. You do have the option of selling all your gems and creating a pseudo new game plus if that's your thing. Anything else? Oh yeah, the soundtrack is great. Touhou has some amazing music by default anyway, and Luna Night remixes a few tracks and they're bangers. Some may prefer the OG tracks, but I think that's personal preference. My only complaint is the soundtrack, the one on the Steam store. Going by Steam reviews, the soundtrack on the store has problems with mastering and the sound being really flat compared to what it should be. Even the YouTube rips are better quality than the ones on the store. This kills me. I'd buy the soundtrack in a heartbeat for the flat files, but currently I don't see why you would. And no, it doesn't look like they'll be fixing it unfortunately. So finally we hit the extra chapter, an additional piece of content added to the game after release. I'm just going to be upfront. This section is going to sound overly negative, but that's not because it's bad. It's more the base game was so good and extra chapter feels like it dives a little bit into some pitfalls that the base game gracefully avoided. So extra chapter takes place in Fate Gensokyo, adding 2 new bosses, a new ability and a new sub-weapon. The first boss you encounter is Chirino? Whatever. Cerno is really easy. So easy in fact I never died to her, until this playthrough where I died 3 times. The new weapon is a bound knife. I originally thought it wasn't very useful, but after using it a bit more it's actually worth getting. The new ability is sprinting, which feels a little redundant since in a way it fills the role of slowing time, but it does have its uses, especially during the final boss. The level design is a bit of a mixed bag in extra chapter. The yin yang switches are fine, but there could have been more. Time mechanics aren't used much, and there's not really much platforming, and there's a particular problem with enemies knocking you out the room causing it to reset. The final section leading to the final boss is pretty tiring. It's just a long corridor with a massive spam of enemies. Oh, and extra chapter introduces the most annoying enemies of the game. These bouncing Chinese dragon things. The other enemies it introduces are fine, but these in particular drag me up the wall. Anyway, the final boss is your girl Reimu, who is the protagonist of the main series, so of course she puts up a hell of a fight. It's easily the hardest boss in the game. Just a quick note, I honestly don't know how to avoid it every time I get hit. Anyway, that wraps up the whole story. After beating the final boss you unlock boss rush mode, which I'm pretty bad at. Weirdly, Kurino isn't included in this. Anyway, that's it. I know I sounded a bit negative towards the end there, but extra chapters is still worth playing. It can be a bit frustrating. The game overall is highly recommended. It's a short and sweet game, clocking in about 5+ hours, but it's something good for a replay every so often. Anyway, time for some neat picks and nitpicks I didn't get to cover. It's playable on Steam Deck, it's got low system requirements and the performance is stable. It's pretty much bug free. There's fully rebindable controls and there's little details in the dialogue that can change depending on your actions. Difficulty spiking is a minor problem. This one section is particularly hard and you have to make the return trip as well. Also in this section it looks like you can get hit here. If you try and slide under it you'll just fall through the platform. The shop as mentioned isn't useful, but the shop cards are also pointless. I wish I could just sell these. I wouldn't mind a bit more detail on the map just to see which room is which. I also encountered this one bug where I clipped through the floor and got stuck between the floor and the ceiling of these 2 rooms. It's the only bug I've ever encountered in the game. Anyway, that's all. I'll see you again.